Thank you.
Go on. Stay here.
And the children's word for the day, and our little child is gone. So to the children, or the child in us, the word for the day is givingness.
Oh, I like that one.
It is a nature of God to give, and we practice giving to bring ourselves closer to God. I'm sure you have been told that if you want to have a friend, you must be a friend. And whatever it is that we want, that is what we must give. Whatever we give, we receive. So together, let's say, I give freely, fully, and joyfully. I give freely, fully, and joyfully. And so it is. And if you have your program, on the back side you can read the coming up announcements. March 26th, there's a potluck. And thanks to all that came to the dinner and the movie on Friday evening. It was called, the movie, Who Am I? And to find out more, you have to look it up. April 13th, there's a bingo. And at this point in time, I'm going to ask Tammy to, thank you, Tammy. Ask Tammy to come up and read the Science of Mind reading for today, March 19th.
I am no bird, and no net ensnares me. I am a free human being with an independent will. Charlotte Bronte from Jane Eyre. The divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. Ernest Holmes, The Science of Mind. Ernest Holmes and other great spiritual teachers have recognized... Really? I feel like I'm screaming already. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. That's better. Ernest Holmes and other great spiritual teachers have recognized that what we truly seek in life is freedom. Freedom from thoughts that bind and blind us. Freedom of expression and of creativity. Freedom to realize the life of our deepest desires and highest dreams. And your life of freedom will be different from mine. Your path to freedom is different from mine too. Each of us is on a truly unique journey of discovery and creation. Through every one of the infinite expressions of spirit are unique, we remain one, holy and eternally connected to Source. This is why we can know that whatever comes to us is for us, because there is only one thing happening, the life, the love, the perfection of God. If we know this to be true, we know we have never been, nor could we ever be harmed, and we are free. Free to live this human life fully, with all its attendant color and texture, its births and deaths, its triumphs and tragedies, all of it integrated into our essential wholeness. You are free today. Live into that freedom with joy and confidence. And the affirmation, today I proclaim my freedom. I release all limiting ideas and patterns of thought and behavior that keep me living a life smaller than my soul's desire. I am here to be me. I am free.
Thank you, Tammy. And we are so blessed to live in a free country. And so it is my privilege to welcome up my first teacher, my introduction to this philosophy. And I knew the moment I came in, or the moment I left, that this was what I was looking for. And it was what I wanted. And I've been following that for 35 years, I believe.
That's right.
Yes.
I was just going to say it'd be
35
years
this in June, yes. So please give a warm welcome to Reverend Douglas Craig from Calgary, Alberta, formerly Red Deer.
Well, thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
Oh, a surprise. I love surprises. Oh, look at that. Whee! Happy birthday to you.
then I
thank
would
you.
invite you all to stand as we sing this next song together.
Oh, okay. Which one's that? Hey. Wee. I do. Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Oh, look, a card I should be dealt with. Thank you. I'll check that later. Yeah, okay, well, thank you, everyone. It's nice to be remembered. I was thinking about, I must be going backwards in time because last summer I got a new toy at the end of the summer that I'm going to use quite extensively this year. So I got another really good kick-butt Harley Davidson. So, woo, 101 horsepower. It really goes fast too. I like it. No, you'll see me, but I'll be up ahead of you. Okay, well, we're going to start. We're going to really weird theme this month is cultivating authenticity, and the topic they talk about is we're going to talk about is building bridges or boundaries. Boundaries build bridges. I used to think boundaries built walls, but we're going to talk about why that's not so, and about how it relates to every aspect of our life. So to start out with, let's just join together in an opening meditation treatment. So as we go within to that secret place of the Most High, we do so knowing that there is that one eternal life that is forever giving of itself, and that is God's life. And as I say this for myself, I accept it for each of you, and it's my life right here and right now. And I know that I am an open, clear, free-flowing channel of God's love, energy, wisdom, kindness, and prosperity. And as I move through my experience of life, I define myself by expressing my boundaries with clarity and with conviction, and understanding that boundaries are in all areas of our life, in all facets of our life, and we use those to build bridges and allow others to be able to see clearly who and what we are and what we're all about in a positive, constructive, life-giving way. For within each and every one of us is that unique divine presence of good and God, expressing uniquely in our own special way. So take a few moments now to honor yourself in silence and to honor the gifts that you bring to this thing we call life. So as I celebrate myself, I do so knowing that to the degree in which I love and appreciate and accept myself, I in turn have that ability to love and appreciate and accept other people. And if I want more of that in my life, then it begins with having more of that towards myself. So I go forward with an open and receptive mind today, knowing that there's something available that gives me the ability to enhance and improve the quality and experience of my life. So I go forward, giving thanks, knowing it is so, and so it is. So one of the things I want to start out with is about this negative thing that we have about boundaries. Because as the CSL marketing teaser says, while physical boundaries can act as walls, when we communicate our boundaries instead of a wall, we are creating a clear path for others to connect with us. Boundaries build bridges. And CSL says, sharing my boundaries builds bridges to authenticity, to authentically connect with others. So really, boundaries are defining who we are and sharing that with other people. So I have my likes and dislikes, and over the years, rather than getting ticked off with it, I just expressed it to people. And does that mean that everybody's going to be happy? Oh, heavens no. Lots of people aren't happy with it. But better that I do it that way rather than hold it inside and getting ticked off and expressing it another way. Has anybody expressed it another way when they could have made a different choice and a different behavior? Yeah, that was the biggest thing that when I come into this, is I had to reframe how I did things with people. And one of the expressions that I come up with and focus on was, it's easy to say the right thing all the time. The trick is to resist saying the wrong thing at the tempting moment. Okay? And so, real clear, boundaries are important, especially if one has been victimized, or, well, actually doesn't matter what. If we express what our boundaries are, then that's a framework in how we can operate. And that doesn't mean that they don't change, because they're going to change as we change, and then we communicate things, because things I had as a boundary before no longer exist, because I don't need it anymore. Okay? So we have to be able to establish that. And then, for example, there's other things that if we stay in the boundaries, that we get phenomenal results. So let me just give you an example of that is the way we solve issues or resolve issues or move forward in this philosophy here is what we call spiritual mind treatment. So that is just knowing there's one God and connecting with it. And then the end of it is giving thanks and letting God do the work. But the middle part is our affirmative affirmation that we use. And if we use that affirmation and work with the rules, okay, the boundaries. So whenever you're working with prayer or treatment, there's no room for worry, there's no room for fear, there's no room for doubt, and there's no room for negativity, because all of those take you out of the realm of faith. And if we stand in that clear, calm space, declaring and knowing the truth, we get the appropriate result. Just had a real neat story happen over in Hawaii. So we were there for a couple of weeks, and we went with a couple, and she grew up there in Hawaii, so it was really kind of a neat to get all the inside tours. And so one day we were out, and we were downtown Honolulu, and we were doing a 9-site tour of all these historical buildings, and we were at the last one, and the lady with us recognized that she'd lost her necklace. So not only was it sentimental value, it was worth well over $2,000. So right away her husband said, well, anybody take a picture of her? And Anna said, yeah, I did it. This was at site number 9. She did it site number 8. The 8th one we'd been to, and looked, and she hadn't had the necklace there. So it was a starting point to look for a necklace. Okay, so now you got to be real clear about what you're doing. And of course she was upset, and her husband was upset. They were panicking a bit, and so they're very strong religious people, and they started praying. Okay, but what they were doing was they were praying to find the necklace. Or, when you do that, anybody find the necklace, right? So what's Doug do? No, I'm not interested in finding the necklace. I want to know where it is. Got the difference there? There's a difference between finding it and knowing where it is. So I just go, okay, God, you're on. Where is it? Because that's the way I do my quick thing when that happens. And I go about my business, and it come and it said inside, it's on the bench by the church. Little bit, just a few moments, bench by the church. Third time, I said, I'm going to get the necklace that's on the bench by the church. And they all looked at me like, yeah, okay. So I tootled off and left them there. Now, when you get clear, you also have to watch that you don't get your human logic in the way. So we were by that church, and the ladies were sitting in this little garden about 10 meters from the church. So I immediately thought, well, it must be there. Okay? It must be there, because that's where they were sitting. Wouldn't you think that? Okay, so I go there, and it wasn't there. I'm going, wow, I was kind of disappointed in a way. I was so sure I was going to find it. Then it said, the bench by the church. Well, we weren't by the church, but over by the church there was a bench. Well, we weren't anywhere near that bench. Okay, you see the differences here and the subtleties? And I walked over, and there with the clasp done up, laid out very nicely on the bench with the stone up, was the necklace. Okay? So I just phoned her up and I said, hey, who's your favorite person today? Over here, dear. They could see me away across the intersection and that. So I got that. Okay? So I followed the rules and I got the message. However, I even got my humanness in there to interpret it the way I thought it was, not listening to what it said. The bench by the church, not the one you were sitting on, but by the church. You clear? Okay? Now, what do you think about that? Do you think she was happy? And do you see the difference between praying for something? Because they prayed to find the necklace. Well, somebody found it. And they put it there. So it was already found. I wanted to know where it was. I'm not interested in finding it. Where is it? Okay? So, and that's just one example of boundaries, that we step into a system or a way of doing things, and you got boundaries. For example, when you're riding a motorcycle around the city in Calgary, I don't know what it's like here, probably the same, it's a real now moment experience. It's a real spiritual experience because you have to be 100% fully present with what you're doing, where you're going, and what everybody else around you is doing. Okay? Because if not, it can hurt. And it can hurt real bad. Ask me how I know. Okay? How I know is because I've had it. That's another story. Okay, so Nancy Levin said, setting boundaries will set you free. She defines it as a limit that you set to define what you will or will not do, or what you will or will not accept or tolerate from others. Okay? I call that my BS meter, belief system. I know what you're thinking, Beth. That's what it really is. But, and I had that, and if things work within there, I'm good. But if not, I tend to speak up about it. I don't tend to wait, which is a good thing, because if you wait, it seethes and brews, and all kinds of terrible things happen inside of us. So now with setting boundaries, and I go limits, you got to do that in 3 areas. It doesn't work if you just do it one. And what we're talking about is setting healthy boundaries and limits with others. Defining what you need and what you don't need, and being real clear on that. And some people might go off on you for doing that, but that's okay. When you're trying to define who you are, it's for yourself, and so other people can relate to you. So people that don't like you, they can move on. And people that do got a bridge to your authenticity of who and what you are. Dr. Tom Costa once said, some people bless you by coming and other people bless you by going. okay? And you got to learn when to let go, because what we do is, our goal is not to have any toxic people in our life. That's a really tough one, because that includes not only friends, but it also includes family too. However, but it does open up the door to a whole lot of other people. So, establishing boundaries and limits with others, and then you've got to set healthy boundaries and limits with yourself. You got to come up to that. I remember one I set. It was with Anna. I asked her to marry me, and she got all flustered and upset and in a dither, and I said, okay, fine. So I waited a few months and asked her again, and the same thing happened. So then I gave a boundary and limit, and I told her, I said, because it's bothering you, I will commit not to bring the topic up again until you do. So I never said nothing about it. A year and some months passed, and one day she said to me, do you still love me? And I go, yeah. She said, well, you haven't asked me to marry you lately. And I said, are you bringing it up? And that's really how we got engaged. That was the engagement. Don't ask me what day it was, but it was just the event. And that's exactly how we got engaged, really. Have you ever heard of it happening that way before? But it was the right way, because she was then ready, because she brought it up. Right? So, watch how you go about doing that. And then the other thing there is respecting other people's boundaries and limits. Oh, that's a hard one for some people. Especially if you've got the poor me or victim routine, you never respect other people's boundaries or limits, because you're always in there recruiting. Brené Brown said the gift of imperfection. When we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, then we feel used and mistreated. Anybody felt like that? Yeah? This is why we sometimes attack who they are, which is far more hurtful than addressing a behavior or a choice. So if we don't nip it in the bud right away, it just builds up, and then finally we do it in a way which isn't really good for us, and come unwrapped and explode, and it creates more of a problem. Gee, I thought they were such a nice person, but do you see what they did? But if you do it as it goes along, then it doesn't build up, and it's not that. And really, it's not respecting other people nearly as much as it's respecting self. Because when we respect self and communicate that, then we're actually respecting other people. Called ethics, right? I remember working at SAIT one year, and I always got in, well, at least once a year I got into an interesting situation because of my personality and stuff like that. Yeah. Anyhow, I remember the boss calling me in for the annual performance evaluation, okay? And in there they have expected performance, which I usually always got. And then they had a role model, which is tough to get. And my boss wanted to give me a role model for ethics. And so I sat down and I talked to him. He says, I says, I'm sorry, I can't accept that. I'm going to have to take expected performance. He said, I don't understand, Doug. You're the most ethical person I've ever known. And I said, yeah, I am, Tim, but you got to understand one thing. I'm doing the ethics based on my ethics, not SAIT's ethics. And my ethics will get me in trouble because they'll violate SAIT's ethics. So you may have an opportunity to have to go to human resources with me, and you don't want me going up there with a role model on, do you? Let's just leave it at expected performance. And, okay, he looked at me and said, you're right. So, but, it really was just me being clear that I'm not going to change what I consider to be ethical and the way I deal with it to fit into somebody else's rules. Okay, because I got to live with myself. Oh, am I willing to pay the price? Yes, I was willing to pay the price to keep it in with my ethics because I felt good about them. I still do today. So we all have those ethics, and we all have that part within us that conforms to some role model that we've established. And so what our jobs is to be real clear on that, and to be really clear on the ability to communicate that. For example, turning down the ethics thing, right? The role model. And so that's what we've got to work at. And how am I? Am I really got a handle on this? Well, the answer is yes and no. I got a handle on a whole lot of stuff that is really not relevant anymore, and a whole lot of stuff that is relevant, but there's other stuff that isn't relevant that I haven't got a handle on. So guess what? It's been 43 years since I've been into this now, and I'm still working on it. So don't ever think it's going to wake up one day, oh, I got it, that's it, woo-hoo, I'm in nirvana. Yeah, as soon as you think that, you're going to be brought down real quick, real quick. And the last idea here is to be a compassionate person. And Brene Brown's, from her book, Rising Strong, The Reckoning, The Rumble, and the Revolution, said, compassionate people ask for what they need. Okay? Big thing. Make a note of that, everybody. Ask for what you need. Don't say, well, they should know. Anybody? Well, they should know. Has anybody ever said that? They should know what I need. No, they don't. You've got to ask for what you need. Don't expect it unless you ask. Why? Well, that's what the great master said. He didn't say you're going to get it. He said, ask and ye shall receive. Right? Ask. So compassionate people ask for what they need. They say no when they need to. Have you ever said something and you wish you wouldn't have, and you wanted to say no to it, but you didn't? And then you find excuses for not doing it? And then you feel terrible about yourself, and the other person thinks you're an idiot? I made a promise to myself a long time ago, if I made a commitment, I would do it, regardless. Do you know how many times that changed? But I went through with the commitment because I said I would. Oh, boy. So I'm very careful about what I commit to. Okay, they say no when they need to, and when they say yes, they mean it. How many times you said, oh, yeah, I'll get a hold of you next week or so, and you never call? Is it anybody here? Yeah, well, why bother saying it if you don't mean it? I hate to tell you this, but if you keep saying stuff like that and you don't mean it by demonstrating, well, I really meant it, but I didn't get around to it. No, that's a story. That's in your BS, your belief system. Or the other one, Beth. You could ask her what it's about. Okay? So you can be very careful if you say something, mean it. They're compassionate because their boundaries keep them out of resentment. So if you do that, that'll keep you out of resentment. And the resentment isn't for other people necessarily. The resentment can be for yourself. And the last little bit of here where we got other rules and guidelines to follow, try these on for size. The 10 Commandments that we got from Moses, right? Now, everybody's heard what they are, but if you really want to know, there's another story to them too. There's the inside story as well as the outside. Irvin Seal wrote a book, 10 Words That'll Change Your Life. And it's a metaphysical story of the 10 Commandments. So thou shalt not kill. Well, that means out here physically, but it also means inside. Don't kill your ideas. Don't kill your good. So really look into those from that inner meaning. Maybe get Reverend Joanne up there to do a class. I'll tell you how to get it set up if you want. That would be a great one to do. And then, of course, there's the ones that Jesus said when he was questioned. Master, what is a great commandment in the law? And Jesus said, thou shalt love thy God with all thy heart. That's in here with your feeling. That's at that deep spiritual level. And then in your mind. So your mind and heart and your spirit are connected. Okay? So that's what it is. To love thy God with all thy heart, thy soul, and thy mind. And that's the first commandment. And the other is thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So that's liking other people like you like yourself. Well, how do you know you're doing on that? Did you know it's really easy to tell how you like yourself with respect to how you like other people? And that doesn't mean what you might do. It's what you think or what you might say. And so if you find yourself in judgment about other people thinking and saying about it, then you know that mirror reflects right back to self. Oh, I don't like that. Did I just say that? Yeah, I don't like that. Yeah, it reflects right back to yourself. Okay? Because you can't see something negative in somebody else unless you're harboring negativity within inside yourself. Joe, it's like the people there, the three guys that are standing looking at the tunnel on the train tracks. And the pessimist sees a long, dark tunnel. The optimist sees light at the end of the tunnel. The realist sees a train coming down the tracks. And the engineer sees three idiots standing in the middle of the rail tracks. Okay? So keep in mind, it's all your perspective. The whole thing is your perspective. And the worst thing that we could tell ourselves is a lie, that what we think is happening is what we think is happening. That's not what really is happening, because we're telling ourselves a lie. So work with that one. Okay? Don't tell ourselves lies. And so go forward knowing that boundaries are healthy if they're clearly communicated in a positive and constructive way, because they build bridges and let people know who and what you're about. But you also have to understand that if you're going to start doing stuff like that and being clear, you're not going to make everybody happy. I guarantee it 100%. And if you don't do it, you're not going to make everybody happy, and you're not going to make yourself happy. So I know for you, as I know for myself, that there's something within inside each and every one of us that is willing to define what our boundaries are and provide to us an opportunity to create a bridge of authenticity with everybody and everything. So I know it, I accept it, and I let it be so, and woohoo, so it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Doug.